maybe you're an action buff who appreciates a good romantic story. On the flip side, maybe you're a hopeless romantic who gets bored with mundane slice-of-life settings.
特性拘束時に打ち勝ったというわけですか。愛ですね。ですが。
These descriptions fit you, you need to watch action romance anime, but with a little surprise twist in the plot. So welcome back to Animeology, and today we will show you the top 10 romance anime where the main character is in the worst rank and surprises everyone. If this sounds good to you, then you might soon find a new favorite show. Before we begin, be sure to drop a like and subscribe down below for more anime top 10s, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 10, Zero no Tsukaima, the familiar of Zero. Zero no Tsukaima is set on a different planet called Halkagenia, where the advancements in technology has yet to be discovered, as they have no need for this due to possessing magic. Zero no Tsukaima is a story about Louis-Francois Leblanc de Valliere, a noble, or magician, who is unsuccessful at casting magic due to her not having any affinities with the four main elements. This has led to her being regarded as Louis the Zero throughout the anime. The plot of the story follows Louise and her familiar, Hiraga Saito, through their journey to help protect the kingdom that they live in. It also follows the relationship of Louise and Saito. I do highly recommend this anime to people who are after a nice, intriguing story with an interesting build-up of a relationship. Number 9, The Asterisk War. The premise of this anime is that a meteor crashed into Earth and granted many people the ability to become Genestella with superhuman powers. 6 academies were formed to put Genestella's abilities on display in tournaments for all the world to see, often in the form of a battle royale. I personally thought this premise was slightly more interesting than Chivalry, in that their powers came from a world-changing event rather than just being there, but they're really essentially the same. The anime follows a tag team named Ayato and Yulis as they climb to the top of one such tournament, the Phoenix Festa. Yulis and Ayato's date was interesting since we get to learn about why Yulis needs money and how kind she really is despite how unapproachable she may be to some. I think it's funny that whenever the ambushers attack Ayato, he barely does anything until their last encounter when Yulis goes off alone. Number 8, Hagure Yusha no Aesthetica, Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero. When we watch anime that contain highly overpowered main characters, then sometimes it really ruins the story, right? Like, there's absolutely no challenge factor for the main character, and there's no tension for the reader. But depending on how this powerful main character is executed, it can sometimes turn into a really enjoyable and honestly exciting series. Well, here is one of the very few series that is exactly like that. Hagure Yusha no Aesthetica revolves around Asawa Akatsuki, a so-called rogue hero, who has come to his own world after defeating the Demon Lord from the fantastical world of Lizard. With him, he has brought back the Demon Lord's daughter, Miyu, and has decided to let her live with him in the peaceful human world. In the human world is an international organization called Babel, who protects people from returning to their own world. While Akatsuki and his friends try all that they can to conceal Miyu's identity, they are found out. Akatsuki decides then to protect Miyu from the approaching dangers in order for her to live a happy life. Number 7, UQ Holder. "12-year-old Tauta Kono has spent his whole life in a rural town. He dreams of one day going to the capital where there is a tower that reaches into space. To fulfill his dream, he has been tasked to defeat his teacher and caretaker, Yukihime, who will then permit him to go to the capital. Tauta's life turns upside down when a bounty hunter arrives to claim a prize on Yukihime's head, And in a desperate attempt to save both his mentor and friends, Tauta follows Yukihime's instruction to drink her blood, which in turn turns him into an immortal monster capable of defeating the bounty hunter himself. Yukihime reveals herself to be Evangeline Athanasia Catherine McDowell, a centuries-old vampire. With her identity now exposed, she and Tauta flee to the capital and embark on an exciting adventure that will change both of their lives forever. Number 6. Star Driver. Star Driver isn't a simple story by any means, and the complexities of the show's mechanics took a while to grasp fully on my first viewing. The show begins with Takuto Tsunashi washing up on the beach of Southern Cross Isle, where he is saved by Wako Agamaki and Sugata Shindo. He comes to the island as a new transfer student, but there's more to it. On the island where the show takes place, there are stone giants called Psi Bodies that can turn into fighting robots, but only in a pocket dimension called Zero Time. As it turns out, a secret organization called the Kirabashi Order of Cross wants to nullify the seals of all 4 maidens so that the Psi Bodies will be free, altering the military and economic landscape of the world. They break the Northern Shrine Maiden's seal right in the first episode and gain access to Zero Time. They are about to do the same to Wako when Takuto comes to the rescue, revealing that he possesses the ability to summon a Psi Body of his own, called Tauburn. Takuto makes it his mission to prevent the Kiraboshi Order from getting what they want. There are plenty of small details that make up the rules behind this series, but these are the most important details to grasp when you're watching it. Number 5. Rakudai Kishi no Cavalry. Chivalry of a Failed Knight. In a time and place where one's soul can be morphed into a weapon, there are modern-day magicians called Mage Knights. Although Ikki Kurigane is a student at an institution that trains Mage Knights, he has no particular talent in magic and is labeled the Failure Knight, or quote-unquote, the worst one. Getting way less than average marks in the scorings, he was forced to repeat a year. But with the arrival of a new head of the institution, a new rule was created. Knights whose abilities are compatible, as decided by the board, must share rooms and attend practice and training together throughout their school years to bring up their abilities to the max. It's a rule to implement the absolute verdict of ability. Ikki's roommate, Stella Vermilion, turns out to be a princess of a foreign country. Stella is a rank A knight, the type of genius in magic who only appears once a decade. When Ikki walked in on her while she was changing clothes, it caused a huge misunderstanding, which eventually ends up in a duel between the two of them. The punishment for the loser is eternal submission to the winner. Number 4. No Game, No Life.
女王よ、剣を下げてほしい。そなたは美しい。
What happens when you take 2 expert gamers and drop them into a fantasy world where everything is centered around games? You get the smart, beautiful, funny, and just plain all-around enjoyable No Game, No Life. No Game, No Life is the story of a brother and sister, Sora and Shiro, who together make up Blank, an undefeated gaming group that goes from game to game, mastering it before moving on. In the real world, they are shut-ins who view real life as a crappy game with poorly designed rules and too many players. So when they are drawn into a fantasy world where games are the central aspect of life, the two, unlike other characters in trapped in a fantasy world kind of anime, don't want to leave. They like this new world far better than ours. No Game, No Life is an anime that never left me disappointed. The episodes centered around one game or another were always exciting, and those that served as downtime between battles were full of comedy and helped to flesh out the world. It has smart characters, great humor, and games that are just fun to watch, honestly. Number 3. Yuragiso no Yuna-san. As a child, Kokoroshi Fuyutsura was tormented by his ability to interact with ghosts. Kogarashi's supernatural abilities caused him to get possessed and cause problems for the people around him. After learning to fight back against the ghosts, Kogarashi was ready to finally live a normal life. Kogarashi was able to find a cheap boarding house to stay in, but he finds out soon after his arrival that he is sharing the room with a ghost. The ghost is of a young high school-aged girl named Yuna Yonohana. Thanks to his ability to see the ghost, he is able to befriend Yuna. Kogarashi agrees to help Yuna with her unfulfilled desires in order to help her pass on to the afterlife. If you want a solid harem ecchi show, Yurugiso no Yuna-san has everything you are looking for and a lot more. If you can't stand ecchi, there's nothing here for you to enjoy, I assure you. Number 2. Kwanji Fashi, Full-Time Magister. Full-Time Magister circles around a boy named Mo Fan. One day, he woke up in a world where everything has changed. It's a world where magic is everything. His original world was advanced in science, but he is now in a world where magic evolved into something greater. When he goes to school, he sees that his school teaches magic. Everyone from the academy has one goal: to become a powerful magician. Inside of the city looks normal, but once you go outside of the city, there's a bunch of magical beasts and monsters living there. The monsters attack humans and prey on them. His world changed, but his family situation remained the same as before. After Mo Fan was admitted into the school, he discovered that everyone can use one major element of magic, but he can use two major elements of magic. With that, he started to learn lightning elements in secret and fire elements with the class. His life in this magical world becomes interesting with time, as he's improving and always learning new tricks. And finally, at number 1, Machine Doll wa Kitsusakanai, Unbreakable Machine Doll. It is the early 20th century, and Raishin Akabane is a student puppeteer from Japan, who has come to the Walpurgis Royal Academy of Machine Arts in England to study the emerging field of Machine art, a combination of magic and technology with military applications. He's accompanied by a girl named Yaya, who is actually his automaton, a living machine doll powered by magical circuits specialized in hand-to-hand combat. In the academy, there is a combat tournament exclusive to the top 100 students and their automata, to decide who shall be bestowed with the title of Wise Man, the greatest puppeteer. Unbreakable Machine Doll has 3 main story arcs, each with a different villain. I personally really liked that format since there was still an overarching storyline, but the individual arcs allowed viewers to really dig into some of the moral and ethical dilemmas of using automatons. The world building and plot of Unbreakable Machine Doll are so fantastic that it's disappointing to see it marred by too much ecchi humor.